attending this evening is greatly appreciated. There has been adequate notice of this meeting provided by the Board of Education in the December 28, 2023 notice in the Asbury Park Press, the Co-Star setting forth the time and location of this meeting. Similar notice has been posted in the Borough Hall, the Brielle School website, and the Borough Clerk has been notified.
Mr. Becker,
Present.
Dr. D'Ambrosio, Mrs. McDevitt, Mr. Melancewicz,
Here.
Mrs. Reed, Mr. Starkey, Mr. Vitale,
Here.
Mrs. Walsh,
Here.
Mr. Waltman.
Here. All right, if we could all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could please get a motion that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the June 26, 2024 meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mrs. Walsh,
And then Joe second.
Mr. Melancewicz. Mr. Becker,
Yes.
Mr. Melancewicz.
Yes.
Mr. Vitale.
Yes.
Mrs. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Waltman.
Abstain. All right, no presentations this evening, correct?
Correct.
We now come to visitors' business. At this stage, visitors are permitted to comment on agenda items only at this time. All right, there appear to be none. Diane, no correspondences?
We had one correspondence from Shane Salvatoriello. Dear Brielle Board of Ed, thank you so much for awarding me with the Brielle PTO Gottfried Alt Scholarship. It will be very helpful for my Auburn tuition. That's all our correspondence.
Shane's a great guy. His family are really good people. We wish him all the best at Auburn. That's good. All right, we are at committee reports, beginning with district operations. Mr. Vitale, please.
Sure. We met on the 17th of July, and this early evening, around 6 o'clock today, and we discussed the status at the media center, which is really ready to be open, subject to putting books on shelves. That's essentially it. So we took a walk through it. We took a walk through it last month. It looks wonderful. Stacy's done a wonderful job of using the space, and should be a very welcome opening. Should be a very welcome opening. The playground equipment. We essentially know the configuration of the equipment, and it is the playground equipment is here. It's being assembled. The very last piece is the rubber coating on the ground. And I think that if we get lucky enough, we can anticipate it being ready for the start of school. So that's been a long time. Long time in the making. a lot of hours trying to figure out what it is we need, what it is we want, what we can do, what we can't do, what we couldn't afford, so on and so forth. So I very much appreciate everybody's input there. Now, we're going to have we are going to have some boiler work to do. Two boilers that were included in the 23-24 budget, and the cost of two additional boilers that could be included in the 25-26, depending upon the availability of funds. Getting back to the playground equipment, the overall cost of the playground equipment is about $160,000, maybe a little bit more than that. Between the PTO and the BEF, we got about $40,000 in generous contributions, and our budget is going to subsidize the balance, subject to something Stacy's going to mention just a little bit later. We looked at the budget status for the end of June, which is the close of our school budget year, and it looks like the expenditures came out very, very close to what we had budgeted. There were some things that need to be transferred, but it's pretty much immaterial. And I think we can expect a small surplus to be able to add to our capital reserve balance. And we can't anticipate that saving toward the roof that we're going to need to replace in 3 or 4 or 5 years. So that's about it right now. We're going to continue to monitor the funds, of course. But that's it for the moment.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. All big things with big dollars attached to them, so pretty important stuff. And thank you again. Next on committee reports, Representative to Manasquan, Mr. Markovich.
Not much at the July Manasquan meeting, other than it was the first meeting that Mr. Goodall, the new superintendent, was in place. Outside of that, it was just like probably every school district over the summer, ending the one school year and preparing to start the new school year come September. That's all I have.
Thank you. I think one of the policies this evening relates to our representation with Manasquan, so all good stuff.
That policy, I think it was just some verbiage, no real structural changes.
Because of our size, we get representation on the Manasquan board. Joe's that person, and it's a big deal. Ms. Walsh,
Yes.
curriculum and programs, please.
Yes, we met yesterday, actually, virtually 8:30 in the morning. The meeting was attended by Ms. Polstra and Mrs. Pearson from the administration, Kurt Becker, the president, and myself, and many items were discussed. First, the administration reported on a great and productive summer. The end of the year half days were filled with a lot of engaging learning for the staff and refining their professional practices. Some of the learning was on June 17th and the 18th. The staff members were looking at the qualities of their assessments and examining them for levels of rigor. This will be a huge focus for the upcoming school year, where they'll be looking at the standards they are assessing and building in articulation time for the grade levels to analyze grade level content and their assessments. Then on June 20th, the staff was trained further on Atlas Rubicon, their curriculum platform. The updates to that their unit and lesson planning feature. The staff is utilizing that one platform rather than different platforms for writing lesson plans. Using Atlas provides a streamlined process for the actual lesson planning, which is based on the curriculum maps, and then they align their assessments to the standards at each grade level. Then, in the final days of school year, the entire staff was trained on zones of regulation. On July 3rd, which I've talked about in the past, on July 3rd, some of the staff that needed training in DIBELS, which is their early literacy benchmark assessment, they were trained, and you could see that reflected in the agenda. They completed an interactive training with Mrs. Prendergast. Then our OT, Tara Healy, trained some more staff members in CPI, which is our crisis prevention program. On July 25th, a complimentary mental health workshop was available for teachers to attend who would like to participate. It was run by the Good Samaritan Center, and it was donated to the Brielle School District. So the people who attended got a lot out of that. It's very kind for them, that organization, to provide that. The summer was also very busy with curriculum updates because the New Jersey NJSLA standards were released for ELA and math. They're both ELA and math curriculum crosswalks were completed. The state actually did push back the math full implementation till next September, but they already began the process and are working on that. The ongoing projects we've been talking about and working towards our district goals, we're consistently conducting a gap analysis in the standards at each grade level within our district to see where we can better work and put our efforts forth. We're working towards our district professional development goals. The new technology director worked closely with the administration on a tech audit of all the programs that they no longer need or have overlap within other digital programs and their subscriptions. They found at least 4 programs that are really not needed, resulting in things that they already have provided in the district. So got some savings for the district, so that's great. Stacy worked this summer on the emergency manual and made necessary updates. Nancy worked on the student, parent, and teacher handbooks, updating them. The new dean of students, I think who's here tonight, Stephanie, worked on an athletic handbook and setting up the BS Athletics extracurricular programs, even organized a coaches meeting. Nancy also adjusted and worked on the MTSS plan, which is multi-tiered systems of support for the district. The administration is now looking at their morning meeting time and advisory time and looking to restructure and refresh that program. Students will participate in a couple morning meetings, sessions led by the teacher, and then there will be points, and probably for more older grades, students will have the ability to have opportunities to do these morning check-ins with their teachers if they need questions answered, help, to get a little extra help, so that kind of just revive that morning time that we have. The district, we'll hear more about that in the future. The district will also be utilizing the Clever app for single sign-on on all their devices. And another big thing is parents no longer need to call in absences. They will be utilizing the Genesis parent portal to go log in the morning or in the night and to record their absences. There'll be a drop-down menu to select maybe the reason why they're not there that day. So that's going to streamline some office work. The summer extended school year program, known as ESY, was very successful. They utilized a new schedule. They structured the program a little differently in grade level bands, and they felt that it ran very well, and looking forward to improving that moving forward. And the kindergarten teachers completed the Dial 4 screening earlier this year for our incoming kindergarten students in July to better utilize those results in balancing the classes and identifying individual needs. So that was a very productive, busy summer. It was a great meeting, and we're really grateful to the administration working together for our students here. Any questions?
So we're adding a PM homework club?
Not a PM.
It depends by grade level.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. But it was the morning time, right?
there is morning also.
Yes, that's what we
So
talked about more. Is that
It'll depend on level of interest for students as well, but we've designated AM and PM. I can't remember specifically which grade levels, but there is a mix of AM and PM
Okay,
services.
good. Yes, yes.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Walsh. I sat on the curriculum for several
We talked
years.
so
I
much.
chaired it. Mrs. Walsh is 10 times the person I am.
No, we're a team.
It
We're a
really
team.
is clear when you sit in those meetings, sincerely, for birth of knowledge. Thank you. HR, Mr. Melanchthon?
We did not meet. I don't have anything. I don't believe that, Mr. Woolman, do you have anything?
No.
The superintendent shared with the board pretty much everything, to my knowledge, that's on tonight's agenda
Thank you.
since we last met.
Your hard work in the past. Yeah. Policy, Mr. Waltman.
Sure, thank you. Yes, the policy committee met yesterday. It was attended by myself and Dr. D'Ambrosio from the board, as well as Mrs. Polstra and Ms. Quigley from the administration. We were addressing Strauss Esme update alert number 233. As in some previous updates, the majority of the changes, there's a number of policies being revised tonight. Strauss Esme is moving away from prior practice of pulling definitions and from the regulations out of the legislation and having them in the policies. So for instance, like 2200 may have previously pulled out some of the New Jersey state learning standards and had them in the actual policy or regulation itself, similar to 3160 and 4160 for physical examination. And they're moving to more of, the board will follow the guidance from the DOE or the Department of Health for those types of questions. So to try to keep them from getting out of sync as the legislation changes. We are abolishing policy 164.6, but we do expect this to be a fluid situation. This was an emergency. What would we do in the case of an emergency? And during COVID, they actually put in executive order that allowed us to be able to have emergency hybrid remote meetings and still be compliant with the open meetings. However, that has expired, and we realized though that when an emergency happens, whether it's a pandemic or if it's a storm, that we may still need to be able to move to that type of a hybrid structure. We certainly have the experience with it at this point, but there's no statute that allows us to do that. So we expect that to change. Strauss Esme is still trying to figure that out, but as of right now, that policy needs to be abolished. On policy 5350, where we have, this is for student suicide prevention. All of our staff will use a system called Vector for their mandated training, and that's one of the systems that we use. But now that it has to extend to our any staff outside of teaching, so lunch aides, et cetera, will have to have those annual trainings. And it's a more formalized requirement to make sure that anybody that has exposure to students in the building is trained with the minimums of being able to identify a potential suicide ideation or threat to themselves. On policy 8420, security drills, all staff and students must be involved whenever practicable. Although some situations, it may not be in the student's best interest, or there may be a reason why a particular staff member may need to stay with a student and not participate in that. However, the change here is that if that's the case, if the student requires a special accommodation to not participate in a security drill, that should be captured in the student's 504, IEP, IHP, et cetera. So that is new. Previously, that was managed somewhat informally. So that's something that we will have to make sure that if that's the case and we have a student that needs a special accommodation during one of those drills, that they will be accommodated. And additionally, there are very strict requirements. Mrs. Polstra has done a really great job making sure that our building is safe and that we're properly trained for security events. But they're really cracking down on access to the building, making sure that doors aren't locked and that there's remedies, or I should say there's penalties, or I'm sorry, I'm grasping at the word, but there's liability if you were to prop open a door or something like that. So there's a lot stricter security requirements in that. Finally, we've been wanting to, now that we have all of our policies and our agendas fully searchable on board docs, we want to have that more accessible on our webpage. Brett is going through the process, looking overall at the update to our school website. And when that happens, our intention is to embed our policies and agendas directly in them and make them easier to find rather than having to click out to the board docs platform. And so that's it on all of these policies.
Any questions? Thank you, Sean. As usual, extremely thorough and very comprehensive. So thank you again. Okay. Mrs. Reith is not here. She did not present a report. I'm grasping at different community things that are going on, so if there's any that you guys can think of,
Backyard crawl.
Yeah.
the backyard crawl,
The dash, sign up for the dash.
the dash, the sign-up dash for the younger ones for Brielle Day. I know it's a little unusual, but does BPAG have anything that you might be able to add?
I just wanted to know about the playground, we just couldn't hear,
Fred.
That'll be covered.
I can repeat it during my
Yeah, she's
admin
going to go
report.
into that.
I'll share some.
There's some really exciting news about that. Is there any BPAG events?
No, we set our dates, Mrs. Polstra went and, worked with us to, do dates for next year, and there'll be a calendar that goes out to the parents, so they're included in there. We have 3 meeting dates this coming year, so they won't interfere with the board's meetings and PTO and everybody else. So we're that settled, and, so we'll have, as we get closer, we'll come up with some presenters that will be beneficial for our parents, and at those meetings, we'll let you guys know so that you can advertise for us.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bard. I know that from my perspective and from what the administration has shared with me, the relationship, particularly bringing Nancy on board, is really strong. And you guys are bringing a lot to the table for parents.
She's wonderful. And,
Yeah.
and again, being educators ourselves and working with Stacy, just the stuff that she's done in this past year, those are things that we've kind of brought, to administration in the past that.
Zone of regulation.
And, a wonderful thing would be, just Genesis in general, the stuff that, Chris was just talking about. Those are things that, we thought maybe would happen a couple of years ago, and she got it going on, and now they're in there, and, it's gonna make parents' lives easier, it's gonna make the staff's lives easier, so, just keep it going. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for adding that. We now are at Mrs. Polstra's administrative report.
Sure. So, from the committee reports, you can tell it's been a pretty busy summer here. First thing I would like to do first and foremost is because she was not able to attend our first meeting, I would like to welcome Mrs. Stephanie Panetti, who will be serving as our Dean of Students. We had a very competitive applicant pool for this position, and Stephanie was so impressive with her experience, her professionalism, her enthusiasm, and going through a round of interviews that included a presentation. She just really just shined, and we really feel like we know she's going to be such a great fit here at Brielle. She has been coming in over the summer and has hit the ground running. It's a very exciting time here, having 2 new people in some key positions that's going to allow us to continue to move forward as a school and as a district. So welcome, Stephanie, and thank you for bringing your family tonight. We're so glad that you're joining our team. We also have been doing a lot of hiring this summer. Last summer, the hiring for me seemed pretty light, but this year we're hiring 6 new teachers, I guess. Let me just double count again. Actually, 7. So we have been actively, interviewing people for some tenure track positions, but also some leave replacements. 6 out of those 7 positions are filled at this point. And again, I think it speaks to this community and this school that when a position opens up, we get a very large applicant pool. And so I feel so fortunate. I think, we've got some great people in place to fill the positions that we have open. We also have hired 2 new contracted service providers, a physical therapist and a speech language specialist. We are going to be fully staffed once September comes, but it's been very busy just with the hiring alone, and I'm very excited about the candidates who will be joining us. I also, although some of this was shared, we've been really working on a lot of updates, the emergency crisis manual, a new student handbook. Stephanie is going to introduce a very well-articulated code of conduct, and really some very exciting technology updates that Mr. Greenfield is getting ready for us. So that has also been happening. A lot has been happening facilities-wise as well. As we said, the media center will be up and running in September, and Mr. D is going to be pretty busy with those books in the course of the next couple of weeks. That is the last piece, but it looks lovely, and we're so excited to have that space back. The playground project, the playground equipment is here. It's ready for installation. What our phase one, that will actually, demolition will begin on Monday. We are hoping, weather permitting, that, we will be ready for the first week of September. Phase one is to get the equipment in. Phase two is the surfacing. So that is moving along nicely. Mrs. Healy has also been working with the custodial staff to install a new sensory pathway down by the entrance to the preschool. The PTO generously supported that with a grant. So that is also coming together this summer. And aside from PD, also teachers have been in and out for professional development so that we can continue to work towards our district goals. I also want to remind everybody, obviously, about Brielle Day. We already see the signs out there, and I know that that is a big community event that we're all looking forward to. And I also want to remind everybody about the BEF. They are sponsoring a new event on September 14th, the Backyard Bike Crawl. They are such an integral organization to our school community. So I encourage people to, take advantage of that. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun, and it sounds like it's going to be a great event. I also would just like to say that, I appreciated the interest and the level of engagement at our last Board of Ed meeting. After reviewing the feedback and weighing all of our priorities in the school, the decision to keep 2 sections of 4th grade will remain in place for September. That's my report.
Thank you, Ms. Polstra. We appreciate that report. Stephanie, welcome. We appreciate you being here tonight, and we're really excited to have you moving forward. Is someone going to preschool this year? We're excited for you to start your school career, kid. There are no HIV reports, right? None? At 7:28, that brings us to action items. All items below are under the recommendation of the superintendent. Ms. Walsh, can you move action items A?
Sure.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to move items A1 through A20.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malinsowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mrs. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Walton?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you, everyone. District operations, Mr. Vitale, please.
Under district operations, I'd like to move agenda items C1 through
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malinsowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mrs. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Walton?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Policy, Mr. Waltman, please.
Sure. I'd motion that the Board of Education approves the following policies and regulations for first reading under C1.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Malinsowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mrs. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Walton?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. That brings us to D, human resources. Mr. Malinsowicz, please.
Under Human Resources, I'd like to move letter D1 through D22.
I'll second that.
Mrs. Wolf. Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Melanzowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mrs. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Waldman?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, we are now on to visitors' business. This sometimes can be the most exciting part of the meeting. You might have to speak. I'm only joking. All right, visitors' business. Visitors are permitted to comment on agenda and non-agenda items at this time. We just ask that you approach the microphone so that those viewing at home can hear and you clearly state your name and street. All right, there is no visitors' business. I do have something that came to me last evening at 7. It was an email from Mr. Starkey, one of our board members who is not here. If you don't mind, I'll read that, Ms. Polstra, or parts of it. Dear President Becker and the Brielle Board of Education, with regret, I respectfully submit this email as my official resignation from the Brielle Board of Education. On August 14th, I am heading to Auburn University to begin my college education. My brief tenure as a member of the board has given me deep appreciation for the service that you and my fellow school board members provide to our community. I've learned a tremendous amount about the operations of the Brielle Elementary School and its faculty and staff, and I hope that I have contributed a little towards the success of the board and our school. Mr. Starkey goes on to say, please give my thanks to other board members and to the administration for their constant support and assistance. I hope to continue my own education with the same sense of service that they have all demonstrated to me. And with that, we accept his resignation, and we'll be looking into remedies for that through legal counsel.
For
For
filling the vacancy?
For the filling of the
Okay,
vacancy.
I pulled up the policy, and the policy provides that you've gotten notice of the vacancy, so you have a posting for the vacancy, and then you accept applications. You can ask for resumes or letters of interest, and then you can conduct interviews either in public or private, whichever the board determines it wants to do. You have to do that you have to fill the vacancy within 65 days of today. So you might want to schedule something for your next meeting and try to have applications before then. Again, it's a board decision whether you do the whole interview in public or whether you have a private interview and then just a discussion as to whoever is being recommended.
Awesome. Okay, that is duly noted.
Sherry.
The only other thing I'll say is that if you don't do it within 65 days, then the county superintendent.
Gets to a point.
And with the policy change, is it the replacement would serve for the remainder of the term or to the reorganization meeting?
The replacement would serve, because it's after July, after the 3rd of July, would serve to not January of 2026, but January of 2027.
Good
And
question.
if that's the end of the term, then that would be it. Otherwise, there might be an unexpired term for 1 year.
Good question, thank you. Mr. Starkey is not here because clearly he is on his way to college. I just want to thank him for putting himself out there. This job is, it's a unique one, and it's not easy. So I want to thank him. Although brief, he was an asset and a value to the board. That is my business. So that brings us to the real meat and potatoes, the payment of the bills. Mr. Vitale, please.
Sure. Following July 2024 and August 2024 business, and that the secretary is authorized for treasurer in the total amount of the July bills, $795,861.27. The August bills, $249,296.21.
Second that.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Melanzowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mrs. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Walton?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome, thank you, everyone. There is the normal board secretary certification that is here. We do have an executive session this evening where no action will be taken, and it is for legal matters. So I ask if we can get a motion to go into executive session.
I make,
There may be action after, I apologize.
I make a motion to go into executive session?
All right, thank you. That does not conclude the meeting, but that. Thank you, everyone.